All right, welcome everyone. The hour being 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 16th, 2022. The Tooele City Council is meeting in a business meeting being held at Tooele City Hall in the council chambers located at 90 North Main Street. This is being streamed on the Tooele City YouTube channel. We will start with our first item, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please rise and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 2, which is a roll call. Councilwoman Manzione.
Present.
Councilman Graff.
Present.
Councilman Hanson.
Present.
And Councilman Brady. I'm also present. Councilman McCall is asked to be excused from this meeting tonight. We'll move on to item 3, which is a public comment period. During the public comment, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less and that you sign the paper over here on the counter. So we will open the time up to the public. Please feel free to come up. You could, yeah, just say your name into the mic and then sign in.
Okay, my name is Tammy Fisher. I received a warning notice on my car in the early morning of Monday, November 14th. The form cites a violation of parking ordinance 10-3-4. In contacting Tooele PD, I was notified that the space in which the car was parked was city property, so they cited the vehicle for parking in the wrong direction. This space where the vehicle is parked is a cemented space roughly measuring 8 by 5 feet with a large tree just to the south. Per the code listed, this space is not within a public right-of-way and does not obstruct any roadway or sidewalk from being utilized or plowed when it snows. We have owned our home for 4.5 years and have had a vehicle parked in the same spot every day during this time with no issues. I have been informed that Tooele PD has been tasked by the mayor and city council to start citing and enforcing parking. Our vehicle where it was parked is not a threat, hindrance, or an obstruction. In fact, most of the older homes in Tooele City only have a driveway that 2 or more vehicles would have to be parked behind or in front of the other, not side by side, and may need to utilize these spaces. My husband and I both work full-time jobs, pay our taxes, and don't cause any problems in the community, as I'm sure most of the citizens of Tooele do. And probably utilize these spaces for one of their vehicles to alleviate having to shuffle them around in brisk mornings and evenings in the dark. I fully support parking citations for vehicles that obstruct right-of-way areas such as roadways and sidewalks. However, I really don't understand the reasoning behind these particular spaces being a subject for citations. For the sake of definitions, these spaces between the curb and property line, with the exception of the sidewalks, should not be considered public rights-of-way. Your positions are funded and voted in by taxpaying citizens of Tooele to serve and protect us. If your position as the mayor and city council is to continue administering frivolous citations on city property, please step down from your positions and allow others in who truly want to serve and protect Tooele citizens. I, for one, would throw my hat in the ring. You've raised our property taxes, and now it appears you are also using parking citations to further manipulate and control us for further monetary gain. Serve and protect your citizens by using your positions to eliminate the meth problem. Serve and protect your citizens by using your positions to eliminate homelessness. Stop using the police force and harassing your citizens to gain revenue by citing frivolous parking citations. Thanks.
Thank you. Just don't forget to sign the paper over there. Is there anyone else in the public?
Good evening. I'm Jacob Easter. I've been a resident in Tooele City for about 5.5 years now. I live on 100 East. It's a very, very busy road. It's a very wide road. We have a big issue with speeding down our roadway, and I am looking to you guys and gals to come up with a solution for traffic calming devices. In an email that I received from the city, they said they're looking into the electronic speed signs. I work for Salt Lake City. I'm a certified traffic signal technician. I work on those signs all day, every day. Those signs range in price from $5,000 to $10,000 per sign and require constant maintenance on them. More permanent solutions that are almost maintenance free over time would be speed humps or speed tables in the roads. I'm sure the Public Works Department has a copy of the APWA. It has sections in there that specifically show how to build the speed humps and speed tables, and they're designed for speeds of 20 miles per hour to go over them. I also drive a snowplow for Salt Lake City. I plow areas that have many, many speed tables and speed humps. Never have I incurred any snowplow damage on my 10-wheeler. Never heard of lawsuits coming from it. So I'm here asking you guys to look at better traffic calming solutions than signs. On my way here tonight, there's an accident on 400 North, 100 East. You guys have recently installed the edge-lit stop signs there, and there's continued to be accidents. It's because people on 400 North speed down the road. It doesn't slow people down. Whether the person sees a stop sign or not, the traffic going the opposite direction is speeding. So I'm looking for a more permanent solution, and I'm also a licensed contractor, and I'd be willing to volunteer my labor if the city paid for the materials, and I would do the work myself. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? Seeing no one else come forward, I'm going to close the public comment period, and we'll move on to item 4, which is a public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant. First public hearing presented by Jared Stewart, the Economic Development Director.
Hello, Council. Thank you. So as just stated, this is public hearing for Community Development Block Grant, which can be used for public infrastructure improvements and to help other public serving, for example, nonprofits and groups who are trying to get projects done and need some funding. This is a federal source of funding administered through the Wasatch Front Regional Council, and the purpose of this public hearing is to have ideas or allow an opportunity for the public to give input on projects that may be needed. So I think that's all I have to present on it, and other than what was written in the notice. So.
Any questions from council? All right, this is a public hearing, so we will open the time up to the public again. Same rules apply, 3 minutes or less, and then state your name and sign the paper. So the time is now the public.
Hello, I'm Darlene Dixon, the director of the Boys and Girls Club here in Tooele, and we are actually on the agenda for some of the CDBG funds. And I'm here just to let you know, first off, I'm so excited to hear about the roads behind the new Boys and Girls Club. We kind of measured how long it takes to get to that park behind La Frontera, and we were jumping over the potholes, so thank you for that plug. But I'm really, really excited about what we were going to want to use the funds for, which is our outdoor development of the new building. Well, not our new building, our new reconstructed building. It not only will provide a safe place for our kids to play, it will be a fenced-in area away from the parking lot. It'll also open up a new place for other people in our community to come and use, which will be really great. The idea we have is a nice shade structure, outdoor fire pit, barbecue pits, garden boxes for our teens to plant vegetables. Really excited about it. Boys and Girls Club rocks. Thanks.
Thank you.
So sign your name.
Oh yeah, don't forget to sign your name on the paper. Sorry, I forgot to remind you to as well. All right, seeing no one else come forward, we will close the public hearing for that item. And we'll move on to item 5, which is a public hearing and motion on Resolution 2022-94, a resolution of the Tooele City Council approving budget amendments for fiscal year 2022 through 2023. This is presented by Shannon Wimmer, the Finance Director.
Good evening, Council. We've put a list in your packet of all of these adjustments. The majority of these adjustments are really just for grants that we've received since July to receive those funds. With a few exceptions, we did an adjustment for England Acres Park to move some money from the fund balance of the impact fees to do the projects over at England Acres Park. And then you also approved the bond payoff for the RDA bond, so this will just follow the budget adjustment for that. It is all paid off and taken care of, so congratulations on that. And then we had a small reallocation for some employees that moved departments. Other than that, it's just your grants or moving from the trust fund over to the general fund. So I'd be happy to answer any questions before you have the hearing if you'd like.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, this is a public hearing, so we will open the time up to the public. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, state your name, and sign the paper. The time is now the public's. All right, seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution 2022-94, a resolution of the Tooele City Council approving budget amendments for fiscal year 2022 and 2023.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Graff, a second from Councilwoman Manzione. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman Hanson? Aye. Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 4-0. Item 6 is a public hearing and motion on ordinance 2022-41, an ordinance of Tooele City reassigning the land use designation for approximately 2 acres of property located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Franks Drive and 1000 North from high-density residential to regional commercial. This is presented by Jim Bolser, the Community Development Director.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. So this is an application that goes in reverse of one the council saw here just a couple of years ago. In 2019, there was a request. This is the subject property on the north side of 1000 North and the east side of where 600 West and Franks Drive connects. The kind of triangle-ish shaped property to the east of Franks Drive there that goes over to where you can see the approved lots there on the right-hand side of the screen. That whole section back in 2019 was proposed for a rezone from a previous commercial designation that resulted out of the Overlake settlement and the land use designations that were assigned from that settlement arrangement to a high-density residential land use and zoning category to allow what was planned at the time for I believe some apartments and multifamily residential. This area hasn't been built yet. Of course, it is still native as you're seeing on the screen. The current land use is HDR, which would support high-density residential, as I discussed, just as the current zoning is MR16, which is, at the time, was our highest density zoning category, but now is towards the middle, but actually towards the upper end still, but it's not the highest. The nature of this request involves the land use map as the first step to come back for approximately 2 acres at the corner of this intersection to be reassigned into the regional commercial land use designation. You'll notice that the HDR has kind of a strip that follows the roadway. This is actually identifying a section of the parcel. The category would extend all the way to the boundary with the CC land use. The idea behind this is actually a proposal that is coming forward that would locate a fairly large convenience store at this location. But it's not something that could be done in the high-density residential zoning category. And so they need to seek a non-residential land use designation. And then should this application prove successful, it would come back for a later zoning map amendment to follow. There has been some public comments submitted that was, I believe, was provided to you. But with the Planning Commission, as well as some testimony regarding the intersection itself and the traffic load there. The Planning Commission was presented with information that, in fact, there is already in process for a new intersection light at this, it's referred to as a semaphore, but a traffic light at this intersection. UDOT has already done the warrant review, and it does warrant today having that light installed. And they are actively in design for what that would include, both the light structure itself as well as the associated right-of-way improvements that would need to take place. We're anticipating that that design will wrap up in the next month or so, hopefully by the end of the year. And then as a procurement project for UDOT, then they could seek to follow up that design with actual installation at some point, hopefully not too distant in the future, and just in the early months of 2023. So certainly before any sort of a convenience store would get built on this site, that light should be in place. So as far as the intersection, that's been some of the public comment and discussion for your reference and background. The Planning Commission has heard a public hearing on this item and forwarded a unanimous positive recommendation by a 6-0 vote for reassigning the land use for this section of the property to regional commercial. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Right, any questions or comments from the council?
I guess one of my questions is because I remember the previous discussion when this was up, probably almost a year ago. I don't know how long ago. But I guess my concern is if you have a commercial property, and I drive that Franks Drive a lot, and it's getting quite congested, and my concern is how are you going to have an egress or ingress into the property without creating more traffic? And maybe that's not something for consideration. I'm just trying to think of how does that balance? And it's a tricky intersection. It's really tricky and it's concerning. And I don't go a week without somebody saying, hey, what about Franks Drive and 1000 North? And understandably, I've sat at that intersection, and the semaphore hopefully will resolve that. But I'm still concerned about that positioning of the property, how that affects traffic flow and such. And maybe it's just a broad question.
It's a viable one, nonetheless, broad or not. It's a viable question. And in fact, through the site plan process that would follow the reassignment of the land use and zoning, one of the things that the applicant will need to provide is a traffic study that would identify things like access spacing, things like visibility, not only at the intersection but also at the egress points. In all likelihood, the closest egress that they would have to the site would be the opposite side of the property from the intersection to increase that site distance as much as possible. But the traffic study will ultimately provide guidance on that for the safest egress possible. There's also a possibility, there is still plans in the works for the development of the HDR piece to the east, that they perhaps might share access and push it even a little bit further away from the intersection. But the key will be the traffic study that's provided, and I understand it's already in the works, that will determine those site distances and spacing that's appropriate and safe for the site.
Thank you.
Council, just for your information, that we have been working with UDOT for over a year on that intersection of getting a traffic light installed there. They have done the study to warrant, to prove that this traffic light is needed. They have now hired an engineering firm to design that intersection. Once it is designed, the city will be responsible to make sure that we have the property in the right-of-way on the north and the south lengths of that intersection. Of course, UDOT has the right-of-way on 1000 North. We will secure those rights and make sure that this development or whatever development goes in there, make sure that we have that right-of-way. And then, of course, their traffic study will only allow them to be situated however close to the intersection. But in talking with UDOT, we believe that once those accesses are all put into place, we believe that light will be in the next year. Don't hold me to that, but 12 months, that is the timeline they're giving us to have that light put in there.
Any other questions or comments from the council? All right. This is also a public hearing, so we will open the time up to the public. Sorry, I didn't know you were the applicant. So we'll do the public hearing, and then typically we let the applicant come up and the council can ask questions. So right now it's just the public hearing. All right, seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing and come back to the council. So we'll have the applicant come up and add anything you want, and then we'll ask questions.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor, council members. So I'm with Wagstaff Investments, and just like Jim, is that right? Just like Jim was saying, so Wagstaff Investments holds all the property for Holiday Oils. So we're looking at this site to be a good spot for a Holiday Oil, like we have one on 600 North, but it's our larger footprint over by Erda. I don't know if you're heading out toward Erda. So we're looking for about 2 acres, so it would be smaller than that site, but we are conducting a third-party traffic study. One of the things the traffic study is trying to navigate is having an access on 1000 North. That's going to be done by UDOT, like the mayor said. But if we get that at 350 feet, their minimum distance requirement, that would be a shared drive. So that would take off a lot of pressure off that intersection, where not only we would use that, or customers would use that, but also the development to the east. So that would take off some of that pressure on, even though it's going to become a lighted intersection, but that would take some of the pressure off of it for queuing and stacking and egress and ingress. So, and any other questions I might be able to answer as well, I'm happy. So.
Right. On 1000 North, so.
I was going to say, I assume that's a right in,
Yeah,
right
right
out?
in, right out. That's
Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
UDOT, I mean, unless it's in a very rural area, they would allow a full motion, but it would be a right in, right out.
Perfect.
So on 1000 North.
We've had discussions about 1000 North and right-ins and right-outs more than once, so
Yep.
happy to hear that.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, I will entertain a motion for this ordinance.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve ordinance 2022-41.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilwoman Manzio and a second from Councilman Hanson. We'll take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzio.
Aye.
Councilman Graff.
Aye.
Councilman Hanson.
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 4-0. Moving on to item 7 is the public hearing and motion on ordinance 2022-42, an ordinance of Tooele City amending Table 1 of Chapter 7-16 of the Tooele City Code regarding residential treatment facilities and programs, presented by Jim Bolser, the Community Development Director.
Thank you. As the council will recall at your last meeting, this was an item we brought to you as a discussion item before it entered the formal process for review. This is a text amendment that addresses a defined land use in our ordinance that isn't defined within our ordinance. It's identified as an allowable use, but it's actually a use that's defined in state law. Because it's defined in state law, we don't need to define it because their capabilities and definitions under the state law would be what we'd be obligated to permit anyway. We would just need to identify what areas of the community that it would be most appropriate for locating these uses. We do have them currently identified in Chapter 714, which is our residential zones for location in certain zones. What we don't have currently is a permissibility in any of our non-residential or special zones or mixed-use zones, which is in Chapter 716. The irony is that this is probably the definition of a mixed use. It is a commercial venture, but the nature of the business is services provided on a residential basis to clients who would actually live short-term as, I don't know if it's quite technically transitional housing, but of a similar nature. Where they receive services or provided a space to reside, and then when those services progress, they can move on to other residential arrangements. So in many ways, depending on the individual business, it could look very much like a residence, or it could look like a business, but it is business in nature. It looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, or I'd put on the screen what it is we're doing, so hopefully I'll just describe it for you a little bit here. So the table that you saw at your last meeting that was in the packet would be simply to, there we go, excellent, would be to establish the residential treatment facilities and programs land use as permissibility in Table 1 of Chapter 716. We then have to identify which zones in which we want to allow it. Under this proposal, we're looking at the MUG, the mixed use general. As I described the nature of these types of facilities, they're very much mixed use in appearance and application. So providing it in a mixed use zone makes quite a bit of sense, actually. There was a question at your discussion meeting about why we haven't looked at other zones. The reason why is because we have one facility here in town looking to expand and provide additional services within the community. They have most important views on an area of our mixed-use general zone. So we wanted to get that in place at least so that we can pursue down that road. And then if at some point we want to pursue other zoning districts in a larger scale review, we can certainly do that at any time. Just for reference, this is the zoning map. The blue area in the middle is our mixed-use general area of the community, most largely between Skyline and 100 South, between 50 West and 200 East, with an additional finger to the southwest down Hood Street and Main Street area, and then a little block to the northwest along 100 South. So this is the area of our mixed-use general zone where this new designation, should you choose to approve this ordinance, would be applicable. Just for a graphic purpose for seeing where we'd be talking about in our community. But the nature of the ordinance, in fact, is the table itself right here, and establishing the land use and establishing it as a conditional use within the MUG zone. That would provide for notice to neighboring property owners, as well as the ability of a review by the Planning Commission to establish any conditions that would mitigate any potential nuisances or impacts onto neighboring property owners. So it doesn't mean that they, does not give them the option to deny such a use, but that's the difference between a permitted use and a conditional use, is just that additional review and potential conditions. The Planning Commission has reviewed this, and like the last item, held a public hearing and forwarded a unanimous positive recommendation by a 6-0 vote for your consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All right. This is also a public hearing, so we will turn the time over to the public. Right, seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve ordinance 2022-42, an ordinance of the Tooele City amending Table 1 of Chapter 7-16 of the Tooele City Code regarding residential treatment facilities and programs.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilman Hanson, a second from Councilman Graff. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilman Graff, sorry.
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 4-0. All right, item 8 is a discussion. Well, Gardner Bat water rights fee in lieu request presented by Jared Stewart, the Economic Development Director.
We still doing that one?
Yeah, we'll have Jared present, and then we can make a motion after that.
Okay, thank you, council. I'll just reiterate some of what we discussed in the work meeting, but this is a request from developer Gardner Bat for to pay a water fee in lieu of conveying water rights for 14.22 acres. some of the reasoning there was to help create confidence that they will be able to develop on their site. And I know we discussed this in the work meeting, but it would allow them to be able to access that much water and know that they have a guarantee for that much water for their development. We discussed creating a table to show guidelines to help build confidence in that and also to approve these by resolution, so we can bring that back to you by resolution in a future meeting. One thing as I thought about this in between the work meeting and now is there's kind of a nuance between not knowing exactly what the business is and maybe knowing what industry they're targeting or planning for. And maybe that's something we can contemplate as well, as if we are able to ask or get some sort of understanding from a property owner of the target that they have, if it's light manufacturing or a heavier industrial or, that's just something to consider too. And maybe there's as we create guidelines, maybe there's specific questions we propose to ask that could help inform your decisions as well, and help give them as they make these requests for payment in lieu, they know exactly what to put in their requests that can kind of answer some of those questions beforehand. So maybe that's something we'll think about in that guidelines and table as well.
All right, thank you, Jared. Any comments? So we discussed that in the business meeting. Any new comments? Okay. I will make a motion that we table the Gardner Vat water rights fee in lieu request. Is there a second?
Are you going to table it to a certain point or to?
I like that, yeah, I will table it until
I think they'd like that too,
Yeah.
probably.
our
so.
first meeting in December. Is it
Okay.
December 7th? I don't know the exact, yeah, the 7th, okay.
Then I'll second that.
Thank you. All right, we will take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
Councilman Graff?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That is tabled till December 7th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jared. Item 9 is the general vote canvas. This is presented by Michelle Pitt, the city recorder.
Thank you. Tooele City usually, well, not usually, they hold their municipal elections in the odd-numbered years. But the Parks, Arts, and Recreation that tax was going to end the end of this year, so we needed to put that question on this year's ballot. And because of that, we need to canvass the ballot. So Tracy Shaw, the Tooele County Clerk, she has provided a signed affidavit. And in that affidavit, she swears that the results from the 2022 general election are true and correct to the best of her knowledge, that the election was conducted in compliance with the rules and regulations for ballot security as outlined by the Lieutenant Governor's office, that the election equipment was maintained in accordance with state statute and EAC certification, and that the clerk's office maintains the voter registration database in accordance with federal and state laws and rules. And then she provided some information about the 2022 general election. There were 9,524 Tooele City ballots counted. And there were 448 ballots rejected election-wide, not just Tooele City, but the whole election. And ballots are rejected for reasons like that the signature doesn't match the voter record, or they arrived late after the deadline. Tooele City has 17,166 registered voters, and we had a 55.48% voter turnout, which is really good for the Tooele City. The results of the Parks, Arts, and Recreation tax question was we had 6,396 in favor, 2,800 191 against. So it passed with a 68.87%, and 31.13% was against. So we're just asking that you, as the Board of Canvassers, declare that the 2022 general election is certified, and that you do that by motion, and then if you'll sign the post-canvass report.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you to the voters.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. I will entertain a motion then.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
I move that we certify the 2022 election and the canvassing results.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Hopefully
All right,
that's
we have a
sufficient.
motion from Councilman Graff and a second from Councilwoman Manzione. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman Hanson.
Aye.
Councilman Graff.
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione.
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes 4-0. Item 10 is our minutes from November 2nd, 2022, the City Council and RDA work meeting, and November 2nd, 2022, City Council business meeting. I'll entertain a motion to,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the minutes for the meetings from November 2nd for work meeting, RDA, and business meeting.
I'll second.
right, a motion from Councilman Hanson, a second from Councilwoman Manzione. We'll take it to a vote. Councilwoman Manzione.
Aye.
Councilman Graff.
Aye.
Councilman Hanson.
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That passes 4-0. Item 11 is invoices and purchase orders presented by Michelle Pitt, the city recorder.
Okay, we have a quote from Turf Equipment and Irrigation for a greens mower for the golf course for $41,794.38.
Just the one, huh?
Just the one.
All right.
Yeah.
I was waiting for more.
Oh,
I
I was
know,
like,
me too.
pile it
Just
on
one
there.
tonight. Just one tonight.
It's a cheaper night tonight.
Yeah. All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the invoices and purchase orders.
I'll second.
All right, we'll take it to a vote. Councilman Hanson,
Aye.
Councilman Graff,
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione.
Aye.
I'm Councilman Brady. I also vote aye. That
Thank
passes
you.
4-0. Thanks, Michelle. Item 12 is to adjourn, so we are adjourned from this meeting.